The post-budget battle for the hearts and wallets of Australians is in full swing.
My job is to put in place good policies to make a difference for people.
This budget is an absolute rotter. It's an absolute stinker, and we're going to be fighting against it.
Both men are on the road campaigning amid a flood of social media reaction. The government is busy explaining more than $80 billion in new taxes over a decade, from changes to negative gearing, trusts and capital gains tax. An overhaul the government hopes will win over younger voters.
Why were the capital gains tax changes applied to all assets rather than just residential property? Some people feel like it's unfair that it was applied to shares and businesses as well.
A question being asked by others, but Natasha Etchman, a finance and investment influencer, was granted coveted access to the Prime Minister himself.
No, we wanted to make sure that the drive of investment was towards more productive sides of the economy.
Yeah, but it still feels like by changing the capital gains tax discount across all of assets, it still kind of incentivises people to invest in property.
The purpose should be that greater equity between investing or receiving income from assets, the way that it's treated, and assets from work.
An answer that has clearly left some Instagrammers less than convinced. And it wasn't the only detail from last week's budget that has some voters worried. The opposition has attacked the government for introducing a 30% tax on testamentary discretionary trusts.
The death tax by stealth, there's no doubt about that.
The Treasurer hit back, saying existing discretionary trusts, there are about 10,000 in place today, equivalent to about 1% of all trusts, would be exempt.
There are a whole range of exemptions which recognise that trusts have a legitimate role to play in some instances. In other instances, where they're being used by often people who have the most money to avoid their obligations in tax.
The government's budget is facing criticism from those angered by broken promises. Almost half of people surveyed by Newspoll said it would be bad for the economy, but Labor's primary support is unchanged. A mixed verdict that means for the first time since John Howard's GST election in 1998, the next election will likely be fought on major tax policy. Labor's approach to taxing wealth versus Angus Taylor's push to reduce income taxation.
If a government wants to tax you more, they have to go to an election. They have to take it to the Parliament. They'll have to make it transparent.
According to ANU economist Ben Phillips, the coalition plan means taxpayers would escape an extra $26 billion in income tax over the next 5 years compared to the government's settings. He says under Labor, households will pay about $2,400 extra by 2031-32. If the coalition wins the next election and indexes tax thresholds, the additional tax burden would be about $1,400.
With the welfare system, we naturally index most payments either with the CPI, that's the inflation rate, or wages growth. At the moment, we do the tax system on, I guess, what you'd call an ad hoc basis. So every couple of years, governments realise that people are paying a bit of a higher rate of tax because of bracket creep. So they offer them what are called tax cuts. But really, it's just offsetting the impacts of inflation and wage growth as we move into higher tax thresholds.
Ben Phillips calculates the Liberal Party's plan would be larger than the government's promise to give workers an offset payment of up to $250.
We do have this game every couple of years where politicians offer us what seems like a large tax cut, but really it's not a real tax cut. So there's a bit of honesty, I think, in the indexation approach.
Angus Taylor, meanwhile, is facing blowback from a Liberal senator over a plan to block permanent residents from welfare unless they become citizens. South Australian backbencher Andrew McLaughlin condemned his party for creating two types of community members and raised concerns about the harm caused by using the term mass immigration. A charge Angus Taylor dismissed as he reflected on growing up among immigrants working on the Snowy Mountain scheme.
Thick accents, lots of different food. We had great cappuccinos, but these people committed to our country and we committed to them.
Senator Jonno Duniam is the Shadow Home Affairs and Immigration Minister. Jonno Duniam, welcome to 7:30.
Thanks for having me.
Your fellow Liberal Senator Andrew McLaughlin has described to the ABC Angus Taylor's language on mass migration in his budget in reply as the language and tone of the hard right. Do you understand that that is how it sounds to some?
There are always going to be people who will interpret words or take an interpretation of things in certain ways. The language of Angus's address last Thursday night in the budget reply was about a reality of a migration policy that's out of control, where we're seeing too many people for the amount of houses and other essential services we have to provide for them. And so that's what that language speaks to, and a need to address it. I think if we focus on the language, if we focus on those sorts of things, we're never going to deal with the issues. We're never going to provide new Australians, immigrants to this country, the services they need and deserve when they come here to make a new start of life and take advantage of living here. So I'm less fixated on the language and more on actually getting the policy settings right so that this is something Australians can get behind.
Well, let's talk about numbers. Angus Taylor said the Liberal Party is going to make one of the biggest cuts to immigration in Australia's history. His calculations suggest the cut would reach a number of about 160,000 net migration, whereas Dave Sharma today said it would be ballpark 200,000. Which is it, 200,000 or 160,000?
Well, the reason, Sarah, there are a couple of numbers and a range indeed out there is because we're in May of 2026. The first opportunity we will have to govern this country, if the people give us the chance and we convince them to vote for us, is going to be in May of 2028 or thereabouts. So a lot will happen between now and then. And of course, as you know, part of our policy is to peg net overseas migration number to housing completions in this country. So how many houses are going to be built between now and the next election? What other events are going to occur in this country that dictate how we can accommodate people here? And what need will we have when it comes to the types of skill sets? So it is not about ballpark figures today, it is about hard numbers closer to the election, and I look forward to outlining that and, of course, explaining to the Australian people how we arrived at that actual specific number closer to the election.
You've also promised to process and deport 70,000 overstayers. Just for the viewers' understanding, those 70,000, are those people on bridging visas seeking an extension of their stay to get a review of a decision? Or are you talking about 70,000 people who've melted into the community over the years?
These are people who have exhausted their appeal rights or are not exercising their appeal rights. So they've come here on a temporary visa of some description. They've sought to gain some form of bridging visa or have sought asylum, have been rejected. They've gone through their review and appeal rights and have exhausted them and have been rejected or declined that avenue. They, by law, should not be here anymore.
Sorry, it may. Let me just.
Some who have.
Let me just interrupt you, Jonno Duniam, because that is not a number of 70,000 people. There may be 70,000 people who are just over 70,000 people who are seeking a review of a decision, either in the ART, in the federal court, or even in the High Court. But there aren't 70,000 people who have exhausted that process.
No, you're right, sorry. The figure for those who've exhausted is closer to 50,000, and there are others who, of course, are potentially going through that process, and there is further detail to be revealed about those people. But again, they're people whose visas have expired, but at the very least, there is a portion there who have exhausted their rights and should not be in Australia. And so it is right that the law is applied, as it would be to anyone else, and removed from Australia.
Will you cancel bridging visas as part of your policy?
Well, if there are people who have active appeals on foot, those processes need to conclude, and by rights they should be allowed to go through the processes currently available to them. I think that there is a conversation to be had around the laws that are available to individuals who are going through this process, how many appeal rights and what grounds for appeal there might be through the ART or any other forum for that matter. But I think we need to allow those legal processes to occur for people who are already engaged in them. For those who've exhausted them or don't intend to exercise them, our view is they should not be here and they should be deported from Australia.
Your colleague, Senator McLaughlin, also said that, quote, our economic agenda should resonate with migrants. How does punishing tax-paying permanent residents appeal to would-be migrants that the country so badly needs?
Well, I don't agree with that characterisation, that it is a punishment of tax-paying migrants. I think there are, and I know many of them, that have come to this country who will do whatever they can without 1 cent of assistance to get into our country and to make a go of life here, to take advantage of every opportunity. The countless people who've migrated to Australia who love calling this place home, who've become wealthy in their own right because they've taken advantage of the opportunities we have here. They haven't been punished, and people like them that want to come here won't be punished either.
But they'll still have to wait. They'll still have to wait under the visa system a number of years in almost all cases to receive the kinds of welfare benefits that you are talking about.
And in many cases now, under Labor's current approach, there are wait times between 4 and 10 years for various supports that people may want to take advantage of. So this is not about punishment, but it is about trying to incentivise that pathway to Australian citizenship. People come here, they want to be a part of this country. Part of being a part of this country is that safety net that many of the services we're talking about is provided to Australian citizens for.
The Liberal Party review said the party appeared culturally narrow, this is your own review of yourselves, and disconnected from younger multicultural electorates. Is there a risk of further alienating that group with the rhetoric associated with these changes?
Well, I tell you what, immigrants are essential to the future of this country. They've made this country the wonderful nation that it is today. They're the ones who've built amazing hydro schemes.
I'm just going to interrupt you there. Just forgive me one moment, Senator Duniam, because Angus Taylor's line was mass migration is making Australia worse. That doesn't sound like your description.
Well, let me tell you about that. What has made Australia worse is a government that can't manage migration, that sets a target, doesn't meet it, allows people to come in at its peak 550,000 people in a year, but not built houses for them to live in. That is not good. That is where management of the migration system has not only let down the migrants who are coming here, but the people who live here now who feel the pressures as a result of poor planning. That's not the migrants' fault, and we've never said it is. We want people to come here to keep growing our economy. We have an ageing population where we need more people to come in to help with supports and keep our economy functioning. So the coalition policy is pro-migration, but we want to determine who's coming here, in what number. We want to ensure that we have houses for them to live in. And can I say, we want to preserve for those who eventually become Australian citizens, which I hope is all of them that want to come here, the services that we provide in this country. That's a pretty pro-migration policy if ever I've seen one. But there will always be critics and they will say what they say. My job is to get out, as I'm here with you tonight, and sell this to the Australian people.
Senator Duniam, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, Sarah.